Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever part of the world you're in. This is another scene for Perth by night. Uh, Set at Leon's bookstore, which for once is actually not set up it's actually set up as it normally is as a store, which almost never happens now that, he's become Prince, at least that we record. And at the moment, Leon is not there. However, the store is currently open for business.
Fix-It is, well, she actually just went for a stroll through the city to get to know Perth a little bit, and as she's wandering, she comes across some familiar territory, and she decides, why the fuck not, see if she can pick up some books. She saw a few very interesting books in a certain bookstore. She is a little hesitant, though, so she walks up to the window, and she's staring in to see if she can spot a certain individual who's just so happened to be the owner of this bookstore.
Well, inside, that certain individual doesn't appear to be there. However, there appear to be actually a handful of shoppers, and the very, usually fairly perky Stacy is sitting at the counter, looking around, and at that point just sort of turns around and looks straight at Fix-It. And then she smiles and waves, and points over to the door and hits a little buzzer.
Fix-It gives like an awkward wave back. It's like, hi, and she she just pops a popsicle in her mouth as she hears the buzzer, and she goes in. She's a little nervous, so she just kind of opens the door only a little bit, squeezes herself in, and quickly closes it again. And
and Stacy smiles. She says, "Oh, hey, welcome. You were Miss Tennant, right?"
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi.
Mr. Harris actually instructed me if at any point you wanted to shop here, you're welcome, and you get 10% off.
Oh. Okay, that's cool. Is Mr. Harris around?
I think he and Liv are off dealing with things.
Okay.
Up by the park. I think you know which park.
Things are good, definitely. Things are good. I don't want to bother him. And in the meanwhile, Fix-It is like 10% off. What's that guy up to? She's not saying anything though, and she just smiles and it's like, okay, I'll check around. And she is just a little bit tempered compared to the first time that she entered this bookstore. She is just diving into the bookshelves and it's like looking up books and browsing through them, and she actually finally grabs a book and opens it and starts reading a little just to see if this is interesting to her.
So,
and as she's reading, she
how high is Felicity's occult score?
Felicity's occult is 3.
3. Okay. So, as you'd probably expect, about a good somewhere between half and 3/4 of these books are random crap. I mean, between the Llewellyn's Book of the Month Club, which is here's how to give your Wicca another culture's flavor.
Herbs and how to use them.
Yeah, like random bullshit like that, and then there's and then there's also there's also parts that are the good stuff, and it's not, and since it's organized by topic, the good stuff and the bad stuff is mixed in. Yeah. So on one section you'll have something like UFOs are actually space aliens. They're here to give us enlightenment, and yeah, actually best fit to UFO legends would be something along the lines of the fairies from from medieval Europe lore.
Mm-hmm. So
And
she. Oh, go ahead.
but yeah, what's interesting is that every so often there seems to be something that really, it's as if it was written by someone who knew something important and wanted to write it down without in any way breaking the masquerade or something equivalent.
Mm-hmm. So she's at this point walking over to the were creature crap. And she's browsing through it and finally finding something that might be interesting, and she starts reading a little bit and just like brushing a few pages, then starts reading further, brush a few others. She kind of puts the book aside and goes on to different departments, and she's like browsing, reading, and slowly the pile of books that she wants to have is like growing. Like there are now 7 books lying there on the counter. She
A couple,
asks
a couple times, a couple times during this, the phone rings and Stacy answers it. Sometimes it's quick yes no. Other times it's a bit more detailed.
She tries to listen in whether there's anything interesting while she's browsing, but from time to time she just she completely forgets the world. If it's like a book that's like really interesting, then she's just forgetting everything around her, and she's just.
But probably about the time she's on her 7th or 8th book. Well, actually, you could probably make this would probably be normally a difficulty 8 perception and alertness check. But if you happen to have Auspex up at the moment, that would make it easier.
I'll have Auspex up, but I'll take the normal difficulty because, well, as I said, from time to time she's just so busy with reading that she just doesn't
hyper-focus.
Yeah. So I'll just go for the normal difficulty, despite the fact that I will have Auspex up.
Okay.
So perception, alertness. I got 8.
Well, yeah.
No, I don't know if it. No, you said difficulty 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's like in this book. It's like really interesting.
So you don't notice something that would have possibly given 1 or 2 hints about one of the prince's secrets. Oh well. And hey, if you're that far into the book, you may not even notice once the prince comes out of the back room.
Uh-oh. If we're going by the same roll, nope.
And which book do you think you'd probably be into right now?
Let's see, what will be interesting for her. It might be something like either a her book, or as I already mentioned before, she's kind of interested in weird creatures at this point because she's hearing so much about it.
How about actually one that may actually catch your eye is he actually has several books on the Navajo tradition of skin changers.
Yeah, let's go with that one.
So
she's actually like, at this point, she's so interested in that book that she is just sitting, she's decided to sit down on the floor, and she's just reading that book while sitting there, leaning a little bit against the bookcase.
And as she's doing that, Leon just comes over and says, "Oh, that's a very good book. I actually convinced the author to write that,
And there comes the Skelly Cat check. Let's see. That would be what did I have to robots presentation? I believe it
That would
was.
probably be a courage check, I'm
I
guessing.
believe it was courage check. Yeah,
Let's
can,
see.
I can look it up.
Well, let's see. You had the what was it? The botched presentation flaw.
Yeah.
It's a willpower.
Ah. Oh, that's better.
Willpower
Uh,
difficulty 7.
difficulty 7. Okay. Ooh, yeah. Let's see, what is it? 2 hours. I just make it. But really, like, whoa, this is.
Oh, you
I
even
got
got a
one
higher willpower than
success.
Leon does too.
So,
You do really good on this when you're doing thaumaturgy.
uh-huh. So, she's like reading a book, and suddenly she hears a voice. It's kind of familiar. It rings a bell, but so she looks up, and you can see her just for 2 seconds or so, just that pure panic that just freezes the body. It's like, hi.
Hello. Enjoying that book?
She just closes the book with a smack, and it's like, yeah.
Like I knew the author. His father had served with me in World War II.
Oh, okay, that's pretty awesome. As she getting some control over her voice again.
But he, this I had, ran into him shortly after my embrace and managed to convince him that since he had uh, studied a lot about the skin changers to write this book. I have a feeling he was hiding several things, though.
But you never got to find out about them. And in the meanwhile, Felicity's like getting up and just making sure that there are a few good paces in between her and the prince.
So I see you enjoy my bookstore. And oh, Shapeshifters 2. You haven't had any run-ins with them, have you?
No, I just want to be prepared, like, you know.
Yes, actually, I know exactly what you mean, especially since have you heard what the reason why Kings Park is such a desirable bit of real estate for the necromancers? It looks around and makes sure none of the regular patrons are nearby.
Well, I heard that there was, I can guess.
There had been a lupine holy place there.
Hmm. Oh, okay. I just heard that there were some deaths or something like that in there. But yeah.
No, it was a lupine holy place that, as best I can tell, was desecrated by, apparently the lupines have their own version of the Sabbat.
Mm. And they don't happen to be around, right?
I don't know. That's why I've been doing some research on my own. Some of the stuff that you won't necessarily find written down in books for obvious reasons.
So how do you research them then?
There were a couple symbols that I was able to memorize that were prominently displayed there. Add in, actually, how skilled are you with the power of perception?
Little.
There's can you read objects yet?
Um, yeah.
Would you like to learn about as much as I know now about the Lupine Holy Place?
Well, that would be interesting, but why would she's? You can see that her eyes are like narrowing a little bit. It's like, huh? Okay, you're not. This is going in their minds. It's going like you're not planning to throw me at the lupines now, are you? Huh? Or are you?
Not necessarily.
It's just in her mind. So she's like, you can see that her eyes are narrowing a little bit, but on the other hand, the idea of getting more knowledge and stuff like that, it's kind of tempting.
I happen to have a piece of their sacred tree. I
Wow.
will warn you, the sensations even now are still fairly intense. Because this was a holy place, and it was desecrated.
Okay, well,
But if you're interested,
yeah.
so he just turns around and starts heading back towards the back room. Says, "Go ahead, follow me in."
And she places the book on the pile, and she follows. Although she's a little, she's gonna grab her phone at this point. She's like texting to to Dr. Claw and Dr. Doolittle, or actually Dr. Claw, because I know for sure he has a cell phone. Um, I'm with the prince, just him and me. If you don't see me in 4 hours, help.
But yeah, in the back room, he actually, there's a, it's quite obviously something that he uses for, private dealings with people who are wanting a one-on-one consultation in, matters occult or spiritual or what have you. And among other things, he does have like a tarot deck and a little crystal ball off to one side, and currently, and even some black gauze drapes that are currently tied up to the ceiling and the thing. And also, all these books, this might be part of his personal library, because every single one of these books that you've heard of is one of those books that usually just skirts being masquerade safe.
So, for a moment, Fixit actually is like completely forgetting her fear of Leon Harris as she's looking at those books. She's like, oh, wow. Oh my God. It's almost like our library. And she's like, she takes a few steps towards all these books. If she wants to check whether there are books here that aren't in the Tremere library. It's like, then suddenly remembering, like, oh, yeah. So she is take a quick step backwards and staring at the prince again.
But if he there's like a table chair on either side, he just gestures to one of the chairs and sits down on the other. Once you make sure that the door is closed so that no one else is going to be looking in, he he reaches over and you actually see one book that seems out of place. He pulls it forward, and a small panel pops open with a safe inside.
Oh.
And then he covers it slightly while he goes through the whole thing and pops it open and pulls out a dried piece of wood. It's like, here.
Fixit takes it carefully. She's holding it in her hands, and the first thing she's just going to do, just to make sure, is she grabs the mirror that's hanging around her neck, and she first takes a quick check through the room, and then to the wood. She's like, okay.
Well, I have no idea what the wood would look like through the mirror, but
Neither do I, so I guess it's Not that interesting.
It would probably be there would probably be something, but it doesn't really have a spirit attached to it anymore. It at
No.
one point did though,
Ooh.
but yeah.
Yeah. So she's gonna use her Auspex 3, which is kind of funny because I was looking up and it's like, ooh, I only have 3 dice for that.
That one is perception and empathy.
Yep.
Um, Probably given the length of time would be about difficulty 8.
Okay. Spending willpower. Ooh, good thing I did.
All right, so with one
One
success,
success.
um, considering that some of this doesn't actually fully fit, uh, you'd probably get an impression, and again, this could totally be retconned by Kevin at some future point. But for now, I'm just gonna make some assumptions. You get an impression that the last owner was not human and was actually something vast and powerful.
And she's just feeling this piece of wood and stroking it a little bit. It's like, well, I still kind of need to learn this. I've not been able to do this until recently, so.
Hmm.
But I could sense like the power of the creature to
Oh,
whom this belongs. It's
it
wow.
wasn't exactly a creature. It was a spirit.
Well, they're creatures, right? And look,
Well,
she's actually like looking around a little bit as she's still hears those moans and sighs and
uh,
everything in her head. It's like she definitely does not want to upset those
hmm.
whispers and stuff that she hears.
It's like, uh, hmm. Okay, I know you're not a medium. You don't have visions, do you?
Mm,
Oh shit! I thought
sometimes.
this was a ghosts thing. I may have been wrong. Well, you're reacting to some of the same things I've been hearing. It looks like.
What, what have you been hearing then?
Um, Snarling moans of pain.
Mm-hmm.
About half of the human sensitives I know have been having nightmares and staying indoors. It's not been. I'd assumed that to be related to the necromantic power that the Sabbat was bringing to bear, but
It was my idea actually that might be it, but
oh,
I don't know. I,
it might just be some residual effects, but it might be
I
something
don't
else.
normally hear like I
Yeah,
don't normally hear ghosts or anything.
well, do you occasionally have visions or insight as to what's happening in the greater world?
Yeah.
As do I. So, what's really interesting is that I did not have that ability before I was embraced.
I kind of did, only not as sharp as now. This
Yes.
was one of the reasons why they wanted me.
No, I can imagine that would be considered a useful asset in a new member of your clan.
Hmm. Oh, can I just have that piece of wood? I might be able to try something. I'm probably not gonna work because it's no longer a living
Go
sentient
ahead.
piece. So she's gonna roll her intelligence occult, I believe. see.
Which power is this?
The green path, herbal wisdom.
Yay! Green path is fun.
I don't think it's gonna work because it's not a living plant or tree anymore. But
Yeah,
hey,
no.
we might get something. You never know.
But no. We could,
Well, at
unfortunately,
least
Kevin's not around. Wow.
at least I get more successes.
You could probably, we'll record this and post this, and probably you can put Kevin go. So what did I find out? Holy Jesus!
Yeah, because if this is difficulty 6, then I would say that since it's a dead piece of wood, even if I get something out of it, it would be at high difficulty. But yeah, wow. If it's 5 successes, then she would probably go apeshit right now. The sum total of the plant spirit's knowledge on a given subject. It would be like.
Especially since this was essentially the focal point of a cairn.
Yeah. Oh fuck!
So to give you some perspective, I ended up rolling something like 7 successes on my spirit's touch on this thing back when you first found it, and because of everything that happened, my character had to roll self-control.
Wow. Okay, well,
because
it's really a shame that Kevin isn't around because it's really a shame that Kevin isn't around, but still, it's on record.
And he'll be like, "You did what? Shit, I need to look it up now."
Well, if he were around, then we could even bring this further, because if this wouldn't work, I could try to put it in the ground again, use Speed the Season's Passing to let it grow.
Yep.
But let's not do that. But there are ideas popping up in Fix-It head, and she's like, "Do you is there a reason why you're keeping this piece here?"
Among other things, I do think I know the lupines in our kind do not always see eye to eye. We tend to see tooth to claw. But whoever did this, I would see them dead.
Is that tree still around? Is it still there?
No, we burnt almost everything there. There were no. There were corpses. Human
I know.
and wolf corpses, and one bizarre wolf-human hybrid with horns, like a deer's antlers.
But still, you burned down.
No, the tree was. We didn't burn down the entire park. What we did was we burnt the corpses because that was a masquerade reach waiting to happen.
You could have just decayed them. You could have let vines grow over it, and then, like.
That was the protections keeping this place from mortal eyes were rapidly vanishing. It was only a matter of time before some random hikers found this place.
I definitely have to go there now. Maybe I could like restore that tree, as in originally.
Possibly. I'd want to check with the lupines first, and I think I've got a few ideas on where to look. And honestly, this is something that's dangerous enough that I'm not going to go there for some time. I'm not going to send anyone else there for some time. Because, it's dangerous. A single lupine can take out an entire coterie.
Yeah, okay, but if it's like if we want to help them, if we want to restore their their nature and everything. I'm pretty
No,
sure.
no.
Right.
The question is whether they would accept it.
Well, could you like go talk to them? And at this point, this Fixit's entire fear is just gone. It's like,
That I know nothing of their culture. I know nothing of their laws. I know only that they have some connection with the spirits. And I did not know that until I found this.
okay,
There are also a number of other potential dangers in the city, one of which I've sent a Bruja fledgling to go look at, which may turn out to be either a wonderful or horrible idea.
like what?
Something that happened during the time the Anarchs held the city that is a focus of many conspiracy theories, and it could be nothing, or it could be the actions of one of our kind, or it could be the actions of something else entirely. But it's Barrack Square, which is actually currently a part of my domain.
Uh-huh.
Among other things, certain things that I have noticed, the swan design looks actually remarkably similar to an eye of Horus, which was an ancient symbol of protection against evil.
Yeah, Egyptian.
Mm-hmm. And as I understand it, some groups may have even used that against the followers of Set.
Against them? Huh.
Yes. So, given that I don't trust a Setite as far as, well, the weakest of my mortal children could have thrown one.
Mortal children?
Yes. Oh, shit. They're probably all dead by now. Oh, well. Well, that would make it a very short distance indeed. Oh, wait, no. Hang on. Tanya was born 68? Yeah. She might still be alive.
Probably.
That is a very interesting question. I have the memory of 3 mortal lifetimes.
How would you do that?
I'm fairly certain it was something my sire did for some reason. I've been able to piece a few parts of the puzzle together, but I'm still missing some corners and edges and a bunch of the middle.
So she did something to your mind? I mean, no offense, but isn't it like bad enough already?
Actually, I'm not nearly as afflicted as some of my clan. Have you met the Malkavian Primogen?
Mr. Pierce, yeah, one time here.
He is very, very, very friendly, but his obsessions can at times be crippling to him.
Whatever. I didn't thought it was anything like, except for the fact that of course he's one of your clan, and no offense, honestly, but yeah. But other than that, I thought it was very nice.
Oh, he is.
My brothers, not my brothers. Sorry, they thought it was creepy, but
well,
I didn't
he
know.
is that too. I would avoid letting him look at your teeth for your own personal safety.
Okay. Well, I thought he was kind. He was asking me what I like to cook and stuff like that.
Oh
It's
no,
kind
like I
of
said,
cool.
he is very kind, but his obsessions get the better of him at times. As for me, I've actually not been able to place. Each of us has a different bit of insight into the world. And sometimes that insight is broken. In fact, quite often that insight is broken. I'm one of the few whose insight does not seem to be broken, at least as far as I can tell. I simply have a different way of looking at the nature of our existence and also the nature of our souls. Among other things, I believe we have one.
Well, isn't that an ongoing discussion?
Well, there's several different things, and a lot of them are tied into poorly understood Christian mythology and theology and cosmogony. I personally tend to go with a number of the writings of the, well, what ended up being collated by the Order of the Golden Dawn around the late 19th and early 20th century.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with those.
They were the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. They had a number of luminaries, among them Yeats. I think I met once in passing. Wait, no. I forget when he died. I might, well, if I met him, I was very young. But in any case, they held that there are multiple layers of reality. They, of course, did not have perfect understanding of them, but they categorized them into 5 basic layers that I'll paraphrase. There's the physical layer, what everyone can see and touch. Then there's one that is called, among other things, the sphere of sensation, the level of emotion, the etheric layer. That's essentially the level, and that is the level on which emotions operate, on which that is the level in which our auras.
Auras, yeah.
Which I personally believe we are actually looking directly at a person's soul. Which would explain why most of our kind have darker souls. Our souls are not the same anymore. After that, there is the astral plane. Then come the areas that are a bit more mystical. There is the plane of ideas, or the plane of the mind. It's basically, it's where concepts exist. It is not tied to time in the same way that the other lower realms are.
Would that then be basically the layer on which like dominate works?
Dominate sort of shortcuts its way. It effectively.
Well, it basically covers it.
Kind of. Dominate. The way Dominate works, it actually sort of shortcuts up to the astral plane and uses that to attack your mind. It is much harder to travel the plane of ideas or the mental plane. And then beyond that, there's the plane of the spirit, which is timeless and possibly undifferentiated, but there's enough evidence against that. The one thing that a lot of them missed, but has been honestly a concept in basic superstition for so long that I'm surprised they actually dismissed it, was life's blood is the currency of the soul.
Mm-hmm.
As kindred, we're disconnected from our spiritual nature. This has two effects. One, we are unable to regenerate our own soul stuff. Two, the soul stuff we do have becomes more powerful because it's trying to fill in that gap, which explains why we have such powerful abilities, the disciplines, the ability to make our bodies stronger.
Okay.
When we feed upon another, we're actually consuming a part of their soul and making it into our own.
Hmm.
Most people don't quite have the, either cannot or will not hear that portion of the other person's soul. I can and do.
Right.
It's for that reason I tend to be cautious of who I feed upon. If it's someone I know, I can understand how they will react. If it's someone I do not know, well, not every soul is willing to be subsumed. It's a similar thing as I've heard stories of occasionally when Diablerists attempt to take someone much stronger than they, the person they take ends up taking over.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard of that as well.
And that's because when you Diablerize, you're in fact consuming someone's soul entire. If their soul is stronger than yours, and what's more, their mind is stronger than yours, they are entirely likely to cause you problems.
Hmm. Yeah, but that's when you take like, I mean, as far as I know, Diablerie, because I'm lucky enough to not have ever witnessed that myself.
Hmm.
But then again, I grew up in a pretty protective environment. But it only works like that when you consume the heart's blood
Yes.
and not
Like I
just,
said, you consume their soul entire. It's not just taking little bits and pieces.
yeah.
It's taking all of it. Because our souls are effectively made of bits and pieces of the souls of those we fed upon. So they're already used to something else, but when you drain the entire soul, that's when you actually drain their identity as well. And
Yeah, I
effectively,
think I get what you're trying to say. It's just that it sounds, I don't know. It makes sense the way you say it, and still I have the feeling that it's not entirely correct.
well, it's not like I've really decided to go around testing this empirically.
Well, you
Beyond the
might want
fact
to
that that
try
would
to.
be an atrocity, it would also be very hard to do.
Why would it be very hard to do?
Every one of my mortal lifetimes I trained as a doctor, which among other things meant also training as a scientist. So I understand the basic principles of research. In order to build up a good amount of knowledge on this in a short amount of time, you'd have to perform a lot of experiments. Given that the only group with the ability to perform those experiments in any speed, I do not really think anyone should be associating with, that being the Sabbat, best to avoid it. But
Well, you could also do it the other way around. I mean, that might be easier. Instead of trying to prove it, try to
disprove it.
yes.
Oh,
I mean,
that's
have
a
you ever been thinking about the fact that maybe the soul isn't in the blood, but because the way I've been looking at it, everything in this world holds a certain spirit, like the trees, the rocks, water, the air we breathe, everything is filled with life.
the spirit and the soul are not the same thing, though. They're
Well,
connected.
yeah,
The
no, that's
soul,
true.
once you die, I believe part of the soul, especially the stronger of will you are and the stronger of soul you are, part of that soul goes and reconnects with the spirit. The spirit goes back into essentially all spirits. And actually, this would ironically explain why so many people claim to have past lives of famous people, because the famous people, such as, say, Alexander the Great or Julius Caesar, would have been
Mozart.
very strong-willed people who would have gone and done such things so that the bits of their soul that gets effectively put into the earth spirit are stronger and more likely to come up.
Yeah, that makes sense. But when we die, I still think that our soul is gone, but it leaves an impression on the beast, and the beasts take shape after our soul. That's why everybody's beasts kind of react differently to
Hmm.
different situations. So when you commit the greatest sin and you consume the person's blood, you consume their beast, not necessarily their soul.
But the beast is not reasonable, and I've heard stories about some who have taken over after being diabloized that were reasonable.
Yeah, it's because of the imprint of our soul on the beast.
Hmm.
I mean, the beast has to survive, and it keeps quiet as long as we give it what he wants, and then you can reason with it.
I do personally believe that the beast is an aspect of our soul. I do not think it replaces our soul.
But that would suggest that humans also have a beast.
Yes, it would. Tell me, have you ever been? I have personal memory of World War One and two people who were in World War Two. One of whom was with the Marines. Given what I saw there, I fully believe that humans have a beast.
Mm.
And we, the things that happened in the Pacific Theater were honestly worse than what got televised in Vietnam.
Well, maybe. I don't know. I think, to be quite honest, the soul of humans is just sinful, and it's our duty to not, or it was the duty of humans to not, to basically erase those sins and acts of love. But that just might be me. I mean, I was born in the 60s, or actually I was raised in the 60s.
Well, you know, some of my children were raised in the 60s.
I don't know. It's interesting to think about it, and I'll think about it more. But
Let's see. Um, I do know the earliest I could have been embraced would have been the late 1920s, early 1930s.
mm,
And the latest would have been in the late 1960s.
uh, I was uh, I was embraced in 1971.
Hmm. Well, well, you are either you are about half as old as I am, or not much younger than I am, depending on which of those lifetimes was me, if any of them.
Mm. It's interesting though that you cannot remember. I mean, can you remember like things from your life before the embrace?
Oh yes, no, I can remember in full detail 3 lifetimes.
Okay. It's
There's a
almost you
period.
have committed diablerie.
No, not quite. There's a period between about 1968 and 1975 that is jumbled. It has taken me. After that, I have my first solid memories as Kindred. I have other memories as Kindred, some of which predate that, some of which predate World War II. Whether they're actually my memories, I don't know. I do know at the very least I have not committed diablerie.
Well, I guess, and else I guess someone could have told you.
Well, I doubt members of your clan are likely to lie about that to someone who specifically ordered their services to find out if they had committed diablerie unknowingly.
No, I said probably someone could have told you.
Mm-hmm. But no, there are a number of things put together. I've been able to piece the most likely circumstances of my past, but given that the one that is publicly known as my sire, I would not be surprised if he had diablerized in the past. The questions of my actual power and what it should be are up for debate.
Have you been blood bonded to your sire?
Oh no, no. At least he was that kind.
Hmm. Well, else, with your idea of the way a diablerie works, and he would have, if he would have diablerized a couple of times, and you would have had 3 drinks from his blood, then that might.
No, this honestly, this has all of the dimensions of use of dominate. Very skilled use of dominate.
Okay.
And to put that into perspective, this is an elder Malkavian who is largely only tolerated by the Camarilla because he's very effective at fighting the Sabbat, who decided to completely rewrite the memories of his official child from any point predating 1975. And I'm actually fairly certain, from certain other inferences I've worked out, I know why 1975 is the point he came over. He'd been running a prank on the humans for about 6 years at that point. Stuff that was largely tied, or at least started with the UFO flap in the Ohio River Valley in the mid-60s.
Ah.
I
Roswell?
No. The one part that I'm certain wasn't him. In fact, I'm not certain what it was the Mothman. However, I'm fairly certain he was the one. He created one of the more famous contactees to come out of there.
Mm-hmm. Well, whatever rocks his boat, I guess. But it sucks to be his child, then.
Yes. But, among other things, if you ever run into a man with a checkered shirt and a grin that's a bit too wide, you may have run into my sire.
Okay. So basically, someone who looks like Mr. Pierce, but then with a checked shirt.
No, no, no. By too white, I mean as if as if
Oh, someone
his
cut out.
no, 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 as if his face had been reshaped.
Oh, okay. Well, if I ever see him, I'll promise I won't say hi.
Honestly, you should probably run in the other direction, unless you're having problems with Shamasei. In which case, accept his help and then run in the other direction.
I'll keep it in mind.
But, as
Hmm?
oh, you seem to have gotten over your trepidation at being in my presence.
Well, I know this is sounding stupid, but I I got scared. I tend to be impatient at sometimes, and I just make a run for stuff, you know. And I thought I had pissed you off.
No, actually, mostly you amused me. This
Uh-huh.
may sound kind of horrible, but you know.
No, I've heard that before. Actually, I had a lot of issues when I was still in training, um, similar to that. And some of my teachers back in the geometry were actually convinced that I would never make it this far.
I am quite glad to see you have proven them wrong.
It's basically because they said it that I put the extra effort in. See, I was kind of done I love my clan. There's no question to my devotion
No,
to
no,
the
no.
mayor.
I,
But I
Spike
was kind of
and
done with.
actually push you a great way towards greatness, and I think Clan Shamir understands that.
Hmm. But yeah, I was kind of done with some of my teachers. I mean, just the fact that stuff happened the way it happened is no excuse to treat me like I'm just some dumb idiot. I mean, did you ever consider the Gangrel to be dumb idiots?
I have considered individual gangrel to be done idiots, but not the gangrel as a whole. Do you mean your coterie mates?
No, I do definitely not mean my co-roommates. No, it's well, fuck this. Um, when just before I got embraced by my sire, I met this woman.
Mm-hmm.
She was it was at Woodstock, and we were just having a good time. I was traveling around the world at that point, and yeah, I really wanted to go to Woodstock, so I was there. It was amazing. It was like the best ever. But so I found this woman, and she took me under her wing, and she turned out to be a gangrel. But at the same time, I also met a guy who, well, actually a few days later, who turned out to be, you never guess, make guess.
Sire.
Yeah, and the two of them were literally fighting over me.
uh,
And actually, been, I was staying with her, with the gangrel for a while, and at some point he just, yeah, I think you could say kidnapped me. He just, he just grabbed me, pulled me in a car, and we drove off, and that's how I became part of the Trevor tribe. And I wouldn't want it any other way, I think. But well, she never got over it.
Uh,
So, but yeah, since that story was well known, people were kind of prejudiced against me, and they, there was actually this one guy who refused to teach me anything because he was convinced that my small mind that attracted this gangrel would not be capable of.
I love your clan, but you have some idiots in there.
Oh,
And,
he was right in his own way, and he was definitely very smart, but so blind. I mean,
there were. Now, France likes to pretend this didn't really happen, but back around the early 20th and late 19th centuries, they were the most racist assholes out there.
Mm-hmm.
I know this because, guess what? I was in the trenches with some of these assholes. And, it's not to say that as a Cornishman I didn't have my own bits of racism, but it was more along the lines of, oh, hey, look, it's the English. They're a bunch of hoity-toity assholes. Oh, hey, look, it's the French. I'd say they were better, but at least the English have some sense of personal hygiene. And, so on. But, like, seriously, there were a number of them that even into, like, the 40s and 50s were 100% convinced that black people were of a different species.
Yeah. Especially when you have like my clanmates who are spending their whole lives in the Chantries, you just get such a distorted view of the world and all the love that's in there and everything that I mean, there's not just one thing better. It's the entire. You have to look at the bigger picture, and I think some of them are just forgetting that because they're locked in between these four walls. Doesn't make them less of a genius in what they do, but well, whatever. I shouldn't be talking like this because Rafat will probably smack me.
When it comes down to it, and the former prince was actually a good evidence of someone who had spent too much time. It was someone who had spent a bit too much time in the Chantry. Add to that, he was a French aristocrat, which made it even worse. I mean, I knew how to get along with him because I'd been dealing with various elders that still believed long discredited theories because they hadn't, bothered to read a medical or scientific journals that had been published in the last 50 years. Or possibly hadn't read one ever. But no. One of the things I like about my clan and the Malkavians and the Bruja is that we're the clans that are traditionally looked down upon. The gang will look down upon a little bit, but the gang will largely just go, yeah, I don't give a shit what you think, and I'm only here for another 3 weeks anyway, so whatever. But the Nosferatu are often seen as a subject of pity because they're all ugly. And as if that were their only defining characteristic. Malkavians, because we're all mad. Bruja, because they can't organize worth a damn. Well, okay, that bit's true. Uh, well, okay. More accurately, a lot of Ruha don't care enough to organize. The
I
ones who
don't know
care
the
and
BG
have
well
the
enough for that.
ability, those are the ones that tend to change, nations. Although not as much now as they once did.
Hmm. I don't know much about the history of those clans. But yeah, I was raised in a time when or well, in a culture I think is more appropriate, or I threw myself in a culture where you don't look at what people can't do or where their bad stuff. It's not just that defines. It's you look at what's good and what makes them a beautiful person. And I think, in a way, everybody has a beautiful person inside. You sometimes need to dig a little. And she just glances at the prince at that.
Um, let's see here. The oldest lifetime I remember, my father was a coal miner in Cornwall, and I think I was the first person from our town to actually get any level of higher education. And I became a doctor. I ended up serving as um, a surgeon in World War One. The other two lifetimes, one of them, I actually was fairly lucky. I was born into a decent family, uh, was able to pay my way through college, get my medical degree just before World War II. Well, just before America joined World War II. The other one was not so lucky, but he still ended up becoming a medic in the Marines.
I've only one thing to say about that, to be honest.
Hmm?
Make love, not war.
I've been in war. I much prefer peace.
hmm I don't, I mean, like I said already, people look too much at where they differ, but they shouldn't be. They should look at what what we have in common.
I personally prefer the balanced look of what we have in common and where we differ. It tends to give you a more useful. I mean, there's something to be said for looking only at the bad, because at least then you'll never be disappointed. Or if you do, it's a pleasant surprise. If you look only at the good, well, optimism is sometimes its own reward. If you look at both, you tend to get the full picture.
Hmm. Well, you should never. No, actually, no. Sure, we're all different. I mean, you're a Malkavian, I'm a Tremere. We're definitely different. There's no way of denying that, but that doesn't mean that there is no common ground
Oh no,
for.
I'm not saying we don't have common ground. We have plenty of common
And
ground.
if you just every time, if you look at the common ground, if everyone just would look at that, where can we meet? Where can we find a way to, you know? Then I don't see why there would be conflicts. I
No,
mean,
there's
honestly, say
always
if
going
you
to be
would take the
conflict.
werewolves, no, if you would take the werewolves and they would just, if they would look and see the similarities,
Maybe.
and
When it comes down to it, considering most of our history with the werewolves involves one kind or the other killing each other, the world will have to change a great deal before we can really approach the werewolves on anything approaching equal ground.
you just need two people for the world to change.
Mm.
I mean, look at Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. In the end, they only needed two people to lay down a feud that
Yes,
was
and
raging over
completely destroy the
generations.
city of Verona.
So
That's
what? A city can be rebuilt.
the whole thing about that is that it was an idiot 16-year-old who ended up on a rebound having a rebound crush on a 13-year-old girl told her he loved her the third time they met.
Wow. That's like a really negative way of looking at that,
Oh, no,
honestly.
that's the thing. This
Fail
is
of
actually
love. A
something that a lot.
sacrifice.
No. It was never. It's a tragedy. It's about a bunch of idiots who managed to make things worse. It's an idiot 16-year-old who gets a crush on a 13-year-old, and this priest who thinks he's going to cure generations worth of feud by
Well,
hiding
did
these guys away
they
and
managed to,
giving
didn't they?
poison to them. And and they kill each other. They kill themselves because they remain idiots. Also, because that priest apparently decides to hire the least effective messenger in all of Verona. The most useful one of Romeo's friends, who also happens to be directly related to the ruler of Verona, gets killed by one of Juliet's relatives because honestly he was a bit of an idiot. It's basically a bunch of idiots being idiots at each other. People kill each other and kill themselves. Romeo manages to kill the heir of Verona.
Oh, by the way, during your tirade, Vixen is just gonna stand up. She's like, yeah, fuck that. Seriously. This is... She's actually just like smacking her hand on the table. It's like, stop it! It's about the idea that two people can make a difference.
No, he has much better
Sure, the story.
stories.
Okay,
He has
sure, the
much better
story.
stories for two people making a difference. Romeo and Juliet was never. It was about. It was well. Okay. Do they?
Yeah,
make
okay, sure. Your idea.
Yeah.
It was about to. It was just. I just mentioned the first most well-known story that most people will see. Like, fuck that. And
No. Seriously, actually.
she's walking away now.
It's like no. Seriously, find an actual Shakespearean
the door
scholar and
slams.
ask them about it.
Fix it out. The door slams closed.
After a moment, Leanne will open the door and look out. Does Felicity pick up her books and buy them, or no?
Nope. She's pissed right now. She's like, oh my god, he really doesn't. She's actually, you can hear that as she walks out the door. She's like, wow, this is why the world won't change, because people are just too stubborn to see a point. Yeah, then you can just hear the door.
Leon just sort of watches her go out, looks at the stack of books, turns to Stacy. Stack these behind the counter in case she comes back for them. And then heads back into his room. And with that, we'll end the scene.